If I started 2026 with absolutely nothing, no capital, no edge, no certainty, I wouldn't feel panic. I wouldn't feel urgency. I would feel relief. Because starting from zero strips away illusion. There's nothing to protect, nothing to prove, and nothing to force. And that's where real transformation begins. Most traders believe money is the starting point. It's not. Money is a byproduct of alignment. Alignment between beliefs, discipline, and execution. When those are missing, no amount of capital will save you. When they are present, capital becomes inevitable. This plan is not about shortcuts. It's not about signals, secrets, or speed. It's about rebuilding the trader from the inside out, so that when opportunity appears, the mind is ready to receive it. If I started 2026 with $0, my first move would not be to look for money. It would be to look at how I think, because the market does not respond to hope, desperation, or effort. It responds to behavior, and behavior is driven by beliefs. The first phase of my plan would be total psychological cleanup. I would eliminate the belief that I need to trade to feel productive. I would remove the idea that the market owes me opportunity. I would stop thinking in terms of getting back what I lost or catching up to anyone else. Those beliefs create pressure, and pressure destroys perception. With zero capital, there is no reason to rush, so I would slow down, deliberately. I would study price behavior without trying to extract money from it. I would observe how markets move when I'm not emotionally invested, because clarity only exists when the outcome no longer matters. Next, I would build flawless execution without money. Most traders do the opposite. They practice discipline when money is on the line, when fear is loud and emotions are uncontrollable. That's backward. Discipline must be installed when there is no emotional consequence. I would define one simple setup, not three, not five. One, a setup that is repeatable, observable, and requires no prediction. Then I would execute it again and again in simulation, not to be right, but to be consistent. My metric wouldn't be profit. My metric would be obedience. Did I follow my rules? Did I accept the risk? Did I exit without hesitation? Did I stay emotionally neutral? If the answer was yes, that trade would be a success, regardless of outcome, because consistency is not built by winning. It's built by doing the same thing under uncertainty. Only after hundreds of executions, when hesitation disappears and trust replaces fear, would I consider capital. And even then, I would start embarrassingly small. Not because the amount matters, but because the mind must learn that money is not a threat. The goal would not be to grow the account. The goal would be to remain unchanged emotionally as the account fluctuates. When the mind stays neutral, the edge can express itself. When the mind interferes, the edge disappears. I would risk so little that loss becomes irrelevant. Because the moment loss feels important, perception narrows. And when perception narrows, mistakes multiply. As consistency stabilizes, size would increase naturally, not as an act of courage, but as a byproduct of confidence. Confidence that is earned, not hoped for. Confidence that comes from knowing exactly who I am when uncertainty shows up. By the end of 2026, the real achievement wouldn't be financial. It would be identity. I would no longer be someone trying to make money from the market. I would be someone who understands probability, accepts randomness, and executes without emotional distortion. And at that point, money would no longer be the goal. It would simply be the effect. Starting from zero is often perceived as failure, as proof that something went wrong. But in reality, starting from zero is one of the greatest mental advantages a trader can have. Zero strips away illusion. Zero removes pressure. Zero forces honesty. When there is nothing to protect, the mind becomes clear, and clarity is the foundation of consistent performance. Most traders believe capital gives them confidence. It doesn't. Capital amplifies whatever psychology is already there. If fear exists, money makes fear louder. If impatience exists, money makes it reckless. Starting from zero removes that amplification. It creates a clean psychological environment where beliefs can be examined instead of defended. That is not a disadvantage, that is freedom. When someone starts with nothing, there is no emotional attachment to outcome. Loss has no meaning because there is nothing to lose. This is the exact mental state every trader tries to achieve after years of struggle, detachment. Zero delivers it instantly. The problem is that most people don't recognize it as an advantage. They rush to escape zero instead of using it to rebuild themselves correctly. The market does not reward effort, intelligence, or desire. It rewards alignment. Alignment between what you believe, how you behave, and how you execute under uncertainty. Starting from zero forces you to confront misalignment. There is no hiding behind profits, no blaming size, no convincing yourself that you're almost there. You either follow your rules or you don't. You either accept risk or you avoid it. Zero exposes truth. One of the greatest psychological burdens traders carry is the need to recover. Recover losses, recover time, recover identity. That burden disappears at zero. There is no recovery mindset because there is nothing to recover. There is only construction. Construction of habits, construction of discipline, construction of a probabilistic mindset. This is why zero is powerful. It shifts the mind from defense to creation. At zero, impatience has nowhere to hide. There is no urgency imposed by capital. The only urgency that exists is psychological, and that makes it visible. When you feel the need to rush from zero, you're not reacting to the market, you're reacting to internal discomfort. Seeing that clearly is the first step toward mastering it. Most traders never get that opportunity because money keeps distracting them. Starting from zero also removes comparison. When you have nothing, you stop measuring yourself against others' results. You stop chasing timelines that don't belong to you. You stop trading to prove something. Comparison is one of the most destructive forces in trading psychology because it pulls attention away from process and toward ego. Zero dissolves ego naturally. It humbles without humiliating. Another overlooked advantage of zero is that it forces simplicity. You can't manage complexity when you're rebuilding. You're forced to reduce your approach to the essentials. One setup, one risk model, one execution process. This simplicity creates psychological safety. When the mind feels safe, it can observe objectively. When it feels threatened, it reacts emotionally. Zero creates safety by removing consequence. Most traders think confidence comes from winning trades. That belief is backwards. Confidence comes from knowing you can execute your plan, regardless of outcome. Starting from zero allows you to practice execution without emotional distortion. You can train consistency without fear interfering. This is how real confidence is built. Not through success, but through self-trust. At zero, every action becomes intentional. There is no autopilot trading, no revenge trading, no overtrading driven by desperation. If those behaviors appear, they are clearly psychological, not situational. This clarity is invaluable. You are no longer fighting the market, you are observing yourself. And self-observation is the gateway to change. Zero also teaches patience in a way profit never can. When there is no immediate reward, you are forced to sit with uncertainty, to wait, to observe, to let setups come to you. This trains the exact skill required for long-term consistency. Markets reward patience, but they also punish impatience mercilessly. Zero allows you to learn patience without paying tuition in losses. One of the biggest mistakes traders make is believing they need money to learn discipline. Discipline is not a response to money. It is a decision about behavior. Zero gives you the space to make that decision cleanly. You can choose to follow rules without emotional incentive. That choice, repeated over time, becomes identity. Identity is everything in trading. You don't trade what you know, you trade who you are. If your identity is built around fear, you will trade fearfully. If it is built around control, you will force outcomes. Starting from zero allows you to redefine identity intentionally. You are no longer the trader who lost or the trader trying to recover. You are simply the trader who is learning to execute consistently. At zero, mistakes become information instead of threats. There is no shame in being wrong. There is no emotional collapse after loss. Each mistake is feedback about belief, about expectation, about discipline. This is how professionals learn. Amateurs learn through pain. Zero removes pain and replaces it with insight. Another advantage of zero is that it eliminates overconfidence. There is no inflated self-image to protect. This makes learning faster. Overconfidence blinds perception. Humility sharpens it. Zero enforces humility naturally without destroying self-esteem. It keeps the ego quiet, which allows the mind to stay open. The irony is that many traders would perform better if their accounts were smaller. Large size magnifies emotional reactions and distorts decision-making. 0 is the ultimate reduction in size. It resets emotional intensity to baseline. From that baseline, emotional neutrality can be trained. Starting from 0 also breaks the illusion of control. When you have money in the market, you often believe you can influence outcome through effort or intelligence. 0 makes it obvious that you control nothing except yourself. This realization is not discouraging, it is liberating, because once you accept that you cannot control outcome, you stop trying, and when you stop trying to control outcome, you start executing correctly. 0 teaches probabilistic thinking. With no money on the line, you can finally see that any single trade is irrelevant. What matters is repetition over time. This understanding is intellectual for most traders, but emotional for professionals. 0 allows it to become emotional reality. The greatest advantage of starting from 0 is that it gives you the chance to build consistency before expectation. Most traders do the opposite. They expect results before they are consistent, and that gap creates frustration. 0 removes expectation, and without expectation, there is no emotional conflict. By the time money enters the picture, the trader who used 0 correctly is no longer the same person. They are calmer, slower, more deliberate. Loss no longer feels personal, wins no longer create excitement. Execution becomes mechanical, almost boring, and boredom in trading is a sign of mastery. Starting from 0 is not a setback. It is a psychological reset. It is an invitation to rebuild correctly instead of repeatedly repairing damage. Those who understand this don't fear 0, they respect it, they use it. And when they finally put money back on the line, they do so with a mind that is no longer vulnerable to the market's randomness. In the end, the market doesn't care where you start, it only responds to how you think. Starting from 0 gives you the rare opportunity to think clearly before consequences return. That is not a disadvantage, that is an edge. The plan is psychological first, tactical second. Because every decision made in the market is filtered through the mind long before it ever reaches the chart. Traders often believe that better tactics will save them, that a new setup, a refined indicator, or a smarter entry will finally eliminate mistakes. But tactics do not execute themselves. The mind executes them. If the mind is unstable, inconsistent, or emotionally reactive, even the best tactics will be distorted. This is why psychology must come first. Without psychological alignment, tactics become weapons used against oneself. The market environment is one of constant uncertainty. Outcomes are random in the short term, uncontrollable, and emotionally stimulating. Entering that environment, without psychological preparation, is like stepping into a storm without shelter. No matter how precise the plan looks on paper, fear, greed, and expectation will reshape it in real time. The plan might say, wait, but the mind says now. The plan might say, exit, but the mind says just a little longer. These are not tactical failures, they are psychological ones. A psychologically first plan begins with understanding that the goal of trading is not to be right, but to be consistent. Consistency is a mental state, not a technical outcome. It requires emotional neutrality in the presence of uncertainty. Until that neutrality exists, tactics are irrelevant. You can refine entries endlessly, but if you hesitate, second-guess, or override rules, the refinement is meaningless. Psychology determines whether a tactic is followed at all. Most traders build plans that assume perfect behavior. They write rules as if fear will not appear, as if losses will not matter, as if winning will not inflate confidence. This is fantasy. A psychological first plan assumes imperfection. It acknowledges emotional reactions and designs structure to contain them. It does not ask the trader to be disciplined. It creates conditions where discipline becomes the easiest option. Risk is the foundation of psychological stability. If risk is not fully accepted before entering a trade, the mind will try to control outcome after entry. That control manifests as micromanagement, early exits, moving stops, or revenge trading. A psychological first plan does not define risk in monetary terms alone. It defines risk in emotional terms. How much discomfort can be tolerated without interference? Until that is answered honestly, position sizing is guesswork. When psychology leads, the first question is not, where do I enter? But who am I when I enter? Am I calm or impatient? Am I neutral or hopeful? Am I executing or proving something? These internal conditions determine how the tactic will be experienced. The same setup taken in different emotional states is not the same trade. The chart may look identical, but the mind is not. A tactical first approach tries to eliminate uncertainty. A psychological first approach accepts it. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means understanding that uncertainty is the cost of opportunity. When that cost is fully accepted, the mind stops fighting the market. And when the mind stops fighting, execution becomes clean. Psychology first planning also redefines success. Success is not profit. Profit is an effect. Success is following the plan exactly as designed. This shift is critical because it removes emotional attachment to outcome. When outcome defines success, every trade becomes a judgment. When process defines success, every trade becomes practice. The mind performs better when it is not being judged. Tactics are static. Psychology is dynamic. The market changes, volatility shifts, and conditions evolve. A psychologically stable trader can adapt tactics because their identity is not tied to being right. An unstable trader clings to tactics because they need certainty. This is why psychology must come first. It creates flexibility instead of rigidity. A psychological first plan includes routines that have nothing to do with charts. Preparation rituals, emotional check-ins, post-trade reviews focused on behavior rather than result. These elements are often ignored because they do not feel productive. But they are what stabilize performance. Tactics get attention because they are visible. Psychology works quietly in the background, shaping every decision. One of the most destructive beliefs traders hold is that confidence comes from winning. In reality, confidence comes. Self-trust. Self-trust is built by doing what you said you would do, regardless of outcome. That is a psychological skill, not a tactical one. A plan that prioritizes psychology is designed to build self-trust systematically. Without psychological grounding, tactics become addictive. Traders jump from system to system, believing the next one will fix their inconsistency. What they are really trying to escape is internal discomfort. A psychological first plan ends this cycle by addressing the discomfort directly. It teaches the trader to sit with uncertainty without acting on it. Another reason psychology must lead is that the market constantly triggers deeply rooted beliefs about worth, control, and success. These beliefs operate unconsciously. When they are not examined, they hijack decision-making. A tactical plan does not address beliefs. A psychological plan does. It brings unconscious expectations into awareness so they lose their power. The market does not require brilliance. It requires alignment. Alignment between belief, intention, and action. Psychology is the glue that holds that alignment together. Without it, tactics drift. Rules get bent. Justifications appear. And once justifications enter the process, consistency disappears. A psychological first plan also understands that learning happens through repetition, not intensity. Traders often try to force growth through emotional experiences, big wins, big losses. But the mind learns best in calm, repeatable conditions. Psychology creates those conditions. Tactics operate within them. When psychology leads, patience becomes natural. There is no need to chase because there is no fear of missing out. There is trust that opportunity is abundant. This belief is not intellectual, it is emotional. It can only be developed through psychological work, not through better indicators. The plan must also account for the fact that the trader is the variable, not the market. The market will do what it does. The trader's job is to respond consistently. Psychology governs response. Tactics are merely the framework within which response occurs. A psychologically sound plan reduces decision points. It limits choices. It simplifies. Complexity increases cognitive load, and high cognitive load amplifies emotional reactions. Simplicity is not a tactical preference. It is a psychological necessity. When psychology is prioritized, losses lose their sting. They are expected, accepted, and integrated. When tactics are prioritized, losses feel like failure. That emotional difference determines longevity. Traders don't quit because of losses. They quit because of emotional exhaustion. Over time, a psychological first approach creates a trader who is internally stable regardless of external conditions. This stability is the real edge. It allows tactics to be executed as designed. It allows adaptation without panic. It allows growth without pressure. In the end, tactics are tools. Psychology is the operator. A skilled operator with basic tools will outperform an unstable operator with advanced equipment. This is not philosophy. It is observable reality in every performance-based field. The plan must therefore begin with the mind, not as an afterthought, not as a motivational add-on, but as the core structure. When the mind is aligned, tactics fall into place naturally. When it is not, no tactic will ever be enough. The market is not a problem to be solved. It is an environment to be navigated. Psychology determines how well you navigate. That is why the plan is psychological first, tactical second. Consistency is built before money is made because the market does not reward potential, intention, or effort. It rewards behavior repeated correctly over time. Money is not the teach. In trading, it is the amplifier. Whatever habits exist before capital is introduced will be magnified once money is on the line. If inconsistency exists first, money will not fix it. It will expose it. This is why consistency must come before profit, not after it. Most traders believe they will become consistent once they start making money. This belief traps them in a cycle of emotional instability. They wait for confidence to arrive through results, but results only stabilize when confidence already exists. Consistency is not a reaction to winning, it is a prerequisite for it. Without consistency, profits are random and short-lived, and losses feel personal and overwhelming. The market is an environment of uncertainty. No setup works all the time. No method eliminates loss. Consistency is the ability to execute the same behavior regardless of outcome. That ability cannot be developed when every trade carries emotional weight. It must be trained when outcomes are psychologically neutral. This is why consistency must be built before money is involved, or while risk is so small that emotion is irrelevant. Consistency begins with self-trust. Self-trust is not built by being right, it is built by doing what you said you would do. Every time you follow your rules, you reinforce identity. Every time you break them, you weaken it. Money does not change this process, it only accelerates it. If self-trust is not present before money, size will erode it further. Many traders confuse activity with progress. They trade more, analyze more, search more, believing effort will create consistency. In reality, consistency is about reduction, not expansion. Fewer setups, fewer decisions, fewer variables. This simplicity allows the mind to remain stable. Stability is what makes repetition possible. Repetition is what creates consistency. Consistency also requires emotional neutrality. Emotional neutrality does not mean absence of emotion. It means emotions do not control behavior. This state cannot be forced. It must be cultivated, and it can only be cultivated when the perceived risk is acceptable. When money matters too much, neutrality disappears. This is why consistency must be trained before money becomes significant. A trader who is consistent knows exactly what to do in every situation, not because the plan is perfect, but because it is familiar. Familiarity reduces fear. Fear creates hesitation. Hesitation leads to mistakes. Consistency removes hesitation by making behavior automatic. Automation is not laziness, it is mastery. The market does not care about motivation. It does not respond to desire. It responds to execution. Execution is a mechanical process when consistency exists. Without consistency, execution is emotional. The same setup produces different actions depending on mood, recent results, or expectation. That variability is the enemy of profitability. One of the greatest psychological mistakes traders make is attaching identity to outcomes. When profit defines self-worth, consistency becomes impossible. Every loss threatens identity. Every win inflates it. This emotional roller coaster destroys discipline. Consistency requires identity to be anchored in process, not result. That anchoring must be established before money reinforces the wrong feedback loop. Consistency is also about accepting randomness. Many traders understand probability intellectually but reject it emotionally. They still expect individual trades to work. When they don't, frustration appears. Consistent traders expect nothing from any single trade. They understand that the edge only exists over a series of trades. This understanding must be emotional, not just logical. It takes repetition without consequence to internalize. Training consistency WI. Without money reveals behavioral patterns clearly. Impatience, avoidance, overconfidence, and fear appear even when nothing is at risk. This proves that these behaviors are internal, not caused by the market or money. Seeing this is empowering. It means the problem can be solved internally before money magnifies it. Consistency also requires patience, and patience cannot coexist with desperation. When money is the goal, desperation is inevitable. When process is the goal, patience becomes natural. This shift must happen before capital is introduced, or capital will hijack attention. Another key element of consistency is rule acceptance. Rules are only effective when they are emotionally accepted, not just intellectually agreed with. A trader may understand why a stop is necessary and still move it. That happens because the rule has not been psychologically accepted. Acceptance comes from repeated exposure to uncertainty without emotional trauma. Again, this is easier before money matters. Consistency creates predictability in behavior, not in outcome. The market will always be unpredictable. The trader must not be. This distinction is critical. Many traders try to predict the market to feel safe. Consistent traders make their own behavior predictable, so safety is internal. When consistency is built first, money becomes secondary. This does not mean money is unimportant. It means money is no longer threatening. It becomes just another variable. This emotional shift is what allows size to increase without fear distorting decisions. Traders who skip this step often experience early success followed by collapse. They make money before consistency is established, and the profits reinforce bad habits. When the market changes, those habits are exposed, and losses feel devastating. Consistency built first creates resilience. It allows the trader to survive changing conduct. Ions. Consistency also simplifies feedback. When behavior is stable, results provide clear information about the edge. When behavior is inconsistent, results are meaningless. You don't know whether the system failed or execution failed. Building consistency first removes this confusion. The goal of trading is not to make money quickly, it is to make money sustainably. Sustainability requires emotional control, discipline, and trust in process. These qualities are psychological, not financial. They must exist before money amplifies pressure. Over time, consistency becomes identity. The trader no longer tries to be disciplined, they are disciplined. They no longer try to follow rules, they follow rules automatically. This identity shift is what allows long-term success. An identity is formed through behavior repeated without emotional conflict. Money made before consistency is accidental. Money made after consistency is inevitable. This is the difference most traders never understand. They chase results instead of building the foundation that produces them. In the end, the market rewards those who show up the same way every day, regardless of what happened yesterday. That sameness is not boring, it is powerful, and it cannot be rushed. Consistency is not built with money. Money is built on consistency. Consistency is not something the market gives you. It is something you earn through repeated, disciplined behavior long before money becomes the focus. When consistency comes first, profits stop being emotional events and start becoming natural outcomes. The trader no longer reacts to wins or losses, but responds according to plan. This is where confidence becomes real, not imagined. Money made without consistency disappears easily, but money built on consistency lasts. When the mind is trained to execute without hesitation or fear, the market has no leverage over you. At that point, profit is no longer a goal. It is simply the result of who you have become.